The silence of space was absolute, disturbed only by the soft hum of the Prometheus as it orbited the verdant planet Kalis. Inside, the cryo chambers began their slow and meticulous reanimation sequence, initialized by the ship's automated defense system as it detected a dire threat approaching. John Miles's eyes fluttered open, the frost around his pod melting away as he staggered out, feeling the weight of real gravity after centuries of sleep. Around him, hundreds of pods glowed with life, each containing a crew member, scientists, soldiers, and civilians, destined to populate a new world. "System report," John croaked, his voice raspy from disuse. "Multiple unidentified vessels on an intercept course, Captain Miles. Defensive protocols suggest immediate tactical response," the AI replied, its voice echoing through the cold metal corridors. "Damn, that's a rude awakening," John muttered, rubbing his temples as he staggered to the command center. The screens flickered to life, showing a swarm of sleek, menacing ships closing in fast. Lieutenant Mark Jensen, a burly man with a knack for weapons systems, emerged next, shaking off the remnants of cryo sleep. "What's the situation, Captain?" he asked, approaching the screens. "We've got company, and they aren't here to chat," John replied, pointing at the advancing fleet. Mark grimaced. "Weapon systems are still booting. We've got minimal defenses until everyone's up." "Then let's wake them up faster. Get to it, Lieutenant," John ordered, turning to the communication panel. As more crew members awakened, Dr. Simon Hayes, the ship's chief medical officer, joined them. His steady demeanor was a contrast to the brewing chaos. "John, these people need time to acclimatize. They can't go from cryo to combat in minutes." "They'll need to," John said firmly. "It's fight or float out here, Simon." While Simon and Mark coordinated the rapid reanimation of the crew, John opened a channel, attempting to communicate with the approaching ships. "This is Captain John Miles of the Earth Ark Prometheus. We are on a peaceful mission with no intention of conflict. Identify yourselves and state your intentions." The only response was a burst of static, and then a chilling, modulated voice. "Surrender your vessel or be destroyed." John clenched his fists, turning back to his crew. "Looks like diplomacy's off the table. Mark, status on those weapons?" "Another 5 minutes, Captain. Everyone's pitching in, but these systems weren't designed for instant warfare." "Then we use what we have," John declared, his gaze sweeping over the crew rallying around them. He switched the internal comms, addressing the entire ship. "This is your captain. We face an imminent attack, and I won't sugarcoat it. Our situation is grim. But we are humans, known for our cunning and courage. I need every able hand on deck, ready to defend our future." The ship buzzed with activity as everyone, from engineers to biologists, stepped up. Dr. Hayes and his medical team prepared the infirmary for casualties while the tech specialists worked furiously to bring the ship's full capabilities online. As the first alien shots fired, shaking the hull of the Prometheus, John coordinated the defense from the bridge. "Mark, now would be a good time for a miracle." "Just about now," Mark exclaimed as the weapon systems lit up. "Let's give them hell, Captain." John nodded, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "All hands brace for impact. Fire at will." The first exchange was fierce, with the Prometheus's shields absorbing most of the alien fire. John's crew worked in unison, a symphony of focus and fear as they maneuvered the ship, returning fire with precision. As the battle raged outside, John couldn't help but feel a rush of pride. Outnumbered and outgunned, his crew was not just surviving, they were fighting back, embodying the undying spirit of humanity. "Keep pushing," John shouted over the din of battle. "Show them Earth's children are not to be trifled with." The chapter sets the stage for a dramatic saga, filled with action, strategic battles, and the raw determination of a revived humanity facing an alien threat head-on. The thrum of the Prometheus's engines filled the air as Captain John Miles stared at the holoscreen, analyzing the alien ship's movements. The initial skirmish had bought them precious time, but at the cost of depleting their shield energy significantly. Lieutenant Mark Jensen paced beside him, muttering under his breath as he checked the readouts on his datapad. "Their tech is light years ahead of ours, but our weapons are holding up better than I expected." "Good. Keep the pressure up and focus on their propulsion systems. If we can immobilize even one, it might scare the rest off," John suggested, his voice tense but controlled. At that moment, Sergeant Alex Rivera, a tactical specialist newly awakened from cryo, joined them on the bridge. His eyes were sharp, quickly taking in the situation. "Captain, we've spotted a small detachment breaking off from the main fleet. It looks like they're heading for a flank maneuver." John nodded, appreciating the update. "Alex, take 2 squads and set up a defensive perimeter. We can't let them box us in. Understood, Captain. Alex saluted crisply before heading off to rally his troops. As the Prometheus maneuvered to counter the alien flanking strategy, John opened a secure line to engineering. Rachel, how are we holding up down there? Engineer Rachel Tan's voice crackled through the intercom, laced with urgency. We're patching the shields as fast as we can, Captain, but if we take another hit like the last one, I can't guarantee they'll hold. Prioritize the shields. Everything else can wait, John ordered, then switched off, turning his attention back to the battle unfolding outside the ship's thick glass viewing port. Mark pointed at a blip on the radar. Looks like we've got a volunteer for your immobilization plan. This one's strayed a bit too far from its pack. John's lips curved into a grim smile. Let's make an example out of them. Target their engines. As the gunnery team aligned the ship's main cannons, the targeted alien vessel made a desperate attempt to rejoin its fleet. Too late. The Prometheus's cannons fired, a brilliant streak of energy lancing through the void, striking the alien ship squarely in its propulsion systems. The enemy craft faltered, drifting helplessly. A cheer erupted from the crew on the bridge, quickly stifled as everyone returned to their stations, knowing the battle was far from over. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Dr. Simon Hayes and his team were in full triage mode, attending to the crew members injured during the skirmishes. Despite the dire situation, Simon's calm demeanor reassured the wounded. Hang in there, he told a young engineer with a shrapnel wound. You'll be back at your post in no time. Back on the bridge, John watched as the disabled alien ship sent out a distress signal to its fleet. Mark, jam their communications. Let's keep them isolated. Already on it, Captain, Mark replied, fingers flying over his console. As the Prometheus prepared for another assault, John felt the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. Each decision he made could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. Yet, amid the chaos, a strategic clarity settled over him. He would do whatever it took to protect his crew and ensure humanity's future. Stay sharp, everyone. This fight's just beginning, John declared, his voice resolute as he prepared to lead his ship through the gauntlet of alien fire. The battered hull of the Prometheus loomed over Kalis as Captain John Miles made the decision to land. The green and blue planet below offered not only refuge, but also a chance to regroup and strategize away from the prying sensors of the Zorvax fleet. Prepare for descent, John ordered, his voice echoing through the ship's corridors. The crew braced themselves, the gravity of the planet pulling at them as the ship began its slow, turbulent descent through the thick atmosphere. Lieutenant Mark Jensen checked the readouts, his expression tense. Atmospheric entry looks good, Captain. Shields holding at 60%. It'll be a rough ride, but we should make it. John nodded, gripping the armrests of his command chair as the ship shuddered violently. Beside him, Sergeant Alex Rivera kept his eyes fixed on the tactical display, updating the defensive layouts as they approached the surface. As the Prometheus broke through the cloud cover, the lush expanse of Kalis unfolded below them, a vast landscape of dense forests and winding rivers. John pointed to a particularly thickly wooded area near a large body of water. There, that's our landing zone. It will give us cover and resources. We'll need both. The ship touched down with a bone-jarring thud, throwing up clouds of alien dust. As the engines powered down, an eerie silence settled over the crew, a stark contrast to the chaos of battle. We're down, Captain. No immediate threats detected, but I'll have scouts out ASAP, Alex reported, already coordinating the teams. John stood, stretching his stiff limbs. Good. Let's start operations immediately. I want fortifications and scouting parties ready within the hour. We're not sitting ducks here. Mark and Alex nodded, moving off to their respective duties. John then turned to Rachel Tan, who had come up from engineering. How's the ship? She wiped her brow, fatigue lining her face. It'll fly again, but not without significant repairs. For now, it's our fortress. As the crew dispersed to secure the perimeter and set up a base camp, John took a moment to survey their new environment. The air was fresh, filled with the sense of an untouched world. It was peaceful, a stark contrast to the relentless pursuit of their enemies. Meanwhile, Dr. Simon Hayes set up a makeshift infirmary inside one of the cargo bays. He was busy organizing medical supplies when John walked in. How are we looking, Simon? Simon looked up, his face weary but determined. We'll manage. A few serious injuries, but everyone's pulling through. This planet might just be what we need to recover fully. John clapped him on the shoulder. Keep me updated. And Simon, take care of yourself as well. Leaving the infirmary, John climbed to a small hill near the landing site. From here, he could see the expanse of their new world. It was beautiful, but he knew that the beauty hid dangers of its own. As the sun set on their first day on Kalis, the horizon painted with the brilliant hues of an alien world, John felt a rare moment of peace. The night brought cool winds that rustled through the trees, whispering secrets of the planet. "This is our home now," he whispered to himself, "and we will defend it." Back at the camp, fires were lit, and the first watch took their positions. The Prometheus stood silent, a guardian over the sleeping crew. In the shadows of the great ship, humanity began its fight for a new beginning under the stars of an unfamiliar galaxy. Under the dense canopy of Kalis's ancient forests, Captain John Miles and his crew worked tirelessly to fortify their new base. The natural terrain provided excellent cover against aerial surveillance, but John knew that it also offered unique challenges and dangers. One morning, as the mist still clung to the undergrowth, Sergeant Alex Rivera returned from a scouting mission with unexpected news. "Captain, we've stumbled upon something, or rather, someone. There's an old hermit living out here. Claims he's been on Kalis since before the cryo-sleep era." John raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "Is he human? And how has he survived here alone all these years?" "He is, and he wouldn't say much about how he's survived, but he seems to know a lot about living off the grid and avoiding detection. He's cautious, but he offered to help us understand the planet better," Alex explained, handing John a digital pad with the coordinates. "Arrange a meeting. If he's been here that long, he might know something that could help us," John decided, the prospect of gaining a new ally overshadowing the mystery for the moment. Later that day, John and a small team trekked through the lush alien foliage to meet the mysterious hermit. They found him in a cleverly camouflaged dwelling built into the side of a hill, blending almost seamlessly with its surroundings. The hermit, a wiry old man with keen eyes, introduced himself as Elias. His beard was tangled, his clothes patched from many repairs, but his gaze was sharp and intelligent. "So, you're the humans who've stirred up the Zorvax nest, huh?" Elias said, his voice gravelly but not unkind. "That's us," John replied. "We're trying to establish a new home here. Any wisdom you could share would be invaluable." Elias nodded, gesturing for them to sit around a fire pit he had prepared. "I've been avoiding those Zorvax patrols for decades. They use a network of satellites for surface scanning. There's a blind spot not far from here, under the Ironwood Grove. They can't penetrate its canopy with their scanners." Mark Jensen, who had accompanied John, took note. "That could be an ideal spot for a secondary base or a fallback position." Elias chuckled softly. "Maybe so, but there's more to surviving here than hiding. This planet has resources the Zorvax haven't tapped into: minerals, plants with medicinal properties, natural fortifications. Use them wisely, and you might just outlast your hunters." As night fell, Elias shared tales of Kalis, describing the behaviors of its wildlife and the seasonal changes. With each story, John saw a new piece of the puzzle falling into place, a new strategy forming. Before leaving, John turned to Elias. "Would you consider coming back with us? Your knowledge could save lives." Elias pondered for a moment, then shook his head. "My days of running with others are long past. But I'll keep an eye on you all. You're interesting, which is more than I can say for most." John respected his decision, offering thanks for the insights. "If you ever change your mind, you know where to find us." Returning to the base, John convened a meeting with his senior staff. "We're going to use what Elias taught us. Mark, start planning the secondary base under the Ironwood Grove. Alex, intensify training on guerrilla tactics. And Rachel, let's explore those medicinal plants Elias mentioned." The crew nodded, invigorated by the new direction. As they dispersed to carry out their tasks, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. Elias had provided them more than just survival tips. He had given them a glimpse of hope, woven into the fabric of Kalis itself. Under the alien stars, John reflected on their small victories. Each day brought immense challenges, but now, with every secret uncovered from the shadows of the forest, they carved a path toward enduring this new world. The relentless pressure from the Zorvax continued as they intensified their search for the human settlers on Kalis. Despite their best efforts to remain hidden and the tactical advantages provided by the dense forests and Elias's advice, the aliens began deploying heavier and more frequent assaults. The human base, camouflaged under the canopy of the Ironwood Grove, suffered its first major casualties, testing the resolve and resources of Captain John Miles and his crew. One dusk, as the sun's fading light gave the forest an eerie glow, John convened an emergency meeting in the main command tent. The air was thick with tension, the recent attacks weighing heavily on everyone. "We're at a tipping point," John began, his voice steady despite the grim faces around him. "The Zorvacs are adapting faster than we anticipated. They're learning our patterns and hitting us harder every time." Lieutenant Mark Jensen displayed a map on the holoscreen, pointing to the areas of heaviest conflict. "Our patrols in these regions have been ambushed repeatedly. We're losing ground, and if we don't change our tactics, we risk being overrun." Dr. Simon Hayes, looking more fatigued than usual, added, "Casualties are mounting and our medical supplies are dwindling. We need a solution, and fast." Sergeant Alex Rivera, who had been coordinating the base's defenses, suggested a risky but potentially game-changing operation. "What if we take the fight to them? A preemptive strike could give us the breathing room we need. There's a Zorvac supply depot not far from here, lightly defended but crucial to their operations." John considered the idea, knowing it was a gamble but also seeing the potential benefits. "It's a solid plan, Alex. If we hit them where it hurts, we could disrupt their supply lines and slow down their assault. We'll need a tight, focused strike team. Mark, you'll lead it." Mark nodded, the weight of the task evident in his expression. "We'll need to be quick and quiet, hit them hard and get out before they can respond." The next night, under the cover of darkness and the dense forest canopy, Mark led a small team of their best fighters towards the Zorvac's supply depot. The tension was palpable as they neared the target, each member aware that the success of this mission could significantly shift the balance in their favor. Using night vision gear and silenced weapons, the team infiltrated the depot, planting explosives on key structures and sabotaging their communications equipment. The operation was swift, with Mark's team working like shadows, unseen and unheard until the explosives detonated, sending shockwaves through the Zorvac's ranks. The explosion lit up the night sky, a beacon of their defiance. The team retreated under the cover of the ensuing chaos, managing to evade pursuit through the intricate escape routes planned by Alex. Back at the base, John awaited their return, the anxiety of command etched deeply into his features. As the first hints of dawn touched the sky, he finally saw the silhouettes of Mark and his team emerging from the forest. "Mission accomplished, Captain," Mark reported, though the fatigue and adrenaline were clear in his voice. John clapped him on the shoulder, a rare smile breaking through his stern demeanor. "Well done. This should give us the edge we need. Let's use this victory wisely." As the base celebrated their hard-won success, John knew this was only a brief respite. The war was far from over, but they had proven they could not only survive, but also strike back. The fight for Kalis was just beginning, but now, more than ever, John believed in their ability to endure and eventually thrive on their new home. Following their successful raid on the Zorvac supply depot, the human settlers on Kalis found themselves with a rare upper hand. Captain John Miles watched as morale soared among his crew. The victory had infused them with a newfound confidence. However, he knew that to secure their foothold, they needed to capitalize on this momentum. "Time to think bigger," John declared in a strategy meeting with his senior staff. "We've hit their supply chain. Now let's go after their command structure. We disrupt their leadership, and we disrupt their entire operation." Lieutenant Mark Jensen, refreshed from their recent success, suggested an audacious plan. "The Zorvac's mothership orbits just outside the atmosphere. If we could somehow board it and take out its command center, we could throw their entire fleet into chaos." Dr. Simon Hayes, always the voice of caution, frowned. "Boarding a Zorvac ship is extremely risky. Their security measures will be unlike anything we've faced." Sergeant Alex Rivera chimed in. "But if we pull it off, it could change the course of this conflict. We take out their head, the body falls into disarray." John weighed their input, knowing the risks could not be underestimated, yet the potential reward was immense. "All right, we go for it. But we do this smart. We need a plan that accounts for every variable." The team spent hours poring over every piece of intelligence they had gathered on the Zorvac's fleet. They designed a stealth insertion plan to exploit a brief window when the mothership's primary defenses were down for maintenance, a vulnerability discovered during their surveillance efforts. As the day of the operation dawned, John briefed the assault team, handpicked for their skills and bravery. "This is it," he began, his gaze locking with each of theirs. "What we do today will either be written in the stars as a bold strike for human freedom or as a noble attempt against overwhelming odds. Either way, we change things today." Under the cover of a cosmic storm, which masked their approach, the team launched in a stealth-modified shuttle, slipping through the Zorvax fleet's perimeter defenses. The electromagnetic disturbances from the storm scrambled sensors and communications, providing the perfect cloak for their mission. Navigating through the tumultuous space weather, Mark piloted the shuttle expertly. They docked discreetly with the mothership, breaching its hull with precision charges. Inside, they encountered minimal resistance at first, as most of the crew was focused on maintaining the ship's operations during the storm. Silently, they advanced towards the command center, using every shadow as cover. Upon reaching their target, a fierce battle ensued. The team fought with everything they had, pushing through the Zorvax defenders. John led from the front, firing his weapon with deadly accuracy. They reached the command center and planted a series of explosives and a specialized virus in the ship's network designed to disable its navigation systems. "Time to leave," John shouted over the din of blaster fire. They retreated back to their shuttle, dodging enemy fire. As they disengaged from the mothership and sped away, the explosives detonated, sending shockwaves throughout the ship. Watching from a safe distance, the team held their breath as the mothership faltered, its movements becoming erratic as the virus took effect. Within moments, the great ship was adrift, its command systems crippled. Back on Kalis, the team was greeted as heroes. The Zorvax fleet, now leaderless and in disarray, ceased their relentless assault, giving the humans much-needed respite. "We've done it," John said to his crew, pride evident in his voice. "We've secured our future, at least for now. Let's use this time wisely, heal, rebuild, and strengthen. We're not just survivors anymore, we're contenders." The victory marked a turning point in the human-Zorvax conflict, with the scales now tipped in humanity's favor, setting the stage for a new chapter in their fight for survival on Kalis. With the Zorvax fleet in disarray following the crippling blow to their mothership, the humans on Kalis seized the opportunity to strengthen their position. Captain John Miles oversaw the expansion of their settlement, turning what was once a makeshift camp into a fortified base. The sense of urgency that had pervaded their daily lives eased slightly, giving way to a cautious optimism among the crew. "Let's use this time not just to fortify, but to expand and explore," John instructed his senior staff during a planning session. "We need to know more about Kalis and what it can offer us. It's time we go beyond survival and start thriving." Lieutenant Mark Jensen coordinated teams to survey the land, identifying areas rich in resources necessary for long-term sustenance and technological development. Dr. Simon Hayes worked closely with the science teams, studying the planet's flora and fauna for medicinal and nutritional applications. Meanwhile, Sergeant Alex Rivera trained select groups in advanced reconnaissance and defensive tactics, ensuring that every member of the settlement could contribute to its defense if needed. "We're not just building a camp here, we're building a community, and every person needs to feel secure," Alex emphasized during one of his training sessions. John took personal interest in overseeing the construction of defensive structures around the base, integrating technology salvaged from the Prometheus with natural features of the land. They built watchtowers in the trees, camouflaged pits, and reinforced underground bunkers, creating a defensive network that would make any hostile think twice before attacking. As they expanded their reach on Kalis, the humans discovered several natural wonders that were not only beautiful, but also strategically valuable. Among these was Crystal Lake, a large body of water with unique properties that enhanced the efficiency of their power generators. Teams led by engineer Rachel Tan set up a secondary base near the lake, using its resources to boost their energy production. The rejuvenated energy not only powered their settlement more effectively, but also allowed for advancements in technology and comfort that made life on Kalis more bearable. "It feels like we're finally getting back a bit of what we lost from Earth," Rachel remarked as she watched the new solar panels glisten under the alien sun. As weeks turned into months, the human presence on Kalis grew stronger and more secure. John often walked through the settlement, talking to his crew, sharing stories of Earth, and discussing plans for the future. These walks gave him a profound sense of accomplishment, but also reminded him of the responsibilities he carried on his shoulders. One evening, as the sun set casting long shadows over the land, John stood on a newly constructed viewing platform overlooking their thriving community. Beside him, Dr. Simon Hayes joined, handing him a steaming cup of a drink made from local plants. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Simon said, looking out over the bustling settlement. "We have," John agreed, taking a sip of the bitter but invigorating brew. "And we'll go further still. But for now, this," he gestured at the community around them, This is home, and it's worth defending. Under John's leadership, the human settlement on Kalis became a beacon of human ingenuity and determination. Though the threat of the Zorvax loomed in the darkness of space, the humans on Kalis prepared for any challenge, their spirits bolstered by the strength of their new home and the bonds they had forged in the face of adversity. The fortified settlement on Kalis had become a testament to human tenacity and engineering. As the community flourished, Captain John Miles remained vigilant, aware that the tranquility might not last. The Zorvax, though momentarily scattered, were not a threat to be underestimated. They were regrouping, and intelligence reports suggested that they were planning a final assault to reclaim their lost ground. One clear morning, as the twin suns of Kalis rose, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink, John convened an urgent meeting with his senior staff. "We have reliable intel that the Zorvax are amassing what's left of their fleet for a decisive strike. They see us as a thorn in their side, one they're desperate to remove," John briefed, his eyes scanning the room for reactions. Lieutenant Mark Jensen, ever the strategist, was quick to respond. "We've fortified our defenses and trained our people. We'll give them a fight they won't forget." Sergeant Alex Rivera added, "Our surveillance drones have spotted them grouping beyond the Dark Ridge. We have a little time to prepare and strategize our countermeasures." John nodded, appreciating their readiness. "This will be the defining moment for us on Kalis. Prepare everyone for battle. This time it's not just about survival, but securing our future here." As the Zorvax fleet approached, a tense calm settled over the settlement. Every man and woman stood ready, equipped and resolved to defend their new home. The community's energy shields were activated, casting a protective dome of light over the buildings and homes that had been so painstakingly constructed. The initial barrage of the Zorvax was fierce, testing the limits of the human defenses. Explosions lit up the skyline as anti-aircraft guns responded with ferocious intensity. John coordinated the defense from the command center, his voice a steady presence over the comms. "Keep those shields up. Fire teams, hold your positions until they're within range," he ordered, watching the battle unfold on screens filled with blips and explosions. The Zorvax, driven by desperation, pressed their attack, unaware that John had prepared a surprise, a series of underground explosives planted around the perimeter of the settlement. As the enemy troops landed and began their ground assault, John gave the signal. "Now!" he shouted. The ground shook as the explosives detonated, creating chaos in the Zorvax ranks and giving the human forces the advantage they needed. From hidden trenches and fortified positions, the humans launched their counterattack, catching the disoriented Zorvax off guard. The battle raged for hours, the ground sodden with the remnants of the clash. Just as the tide seemed to turn in favor of the humans, a catastrophic explosion near the settlement's power core rocked the battlefield. A stray missile had breached their defenses, causing critical damage and power loss throughout the settlement. John's heart sank as he witnessed the devastation, the smoke and flames a stark contrast to the peaceful dawn that had greeted them that morning. Yet even as emergency crews rushed to contain the damage, the human spirit remained unbroken. "We push them back, for every life they've threatened, for every home they've tried to destroy." John rallied his troops, his voice echoing through the comms. With renewed fury, the humans pressed their advantage, driving the Zorvax back, step by bloody step. As the last of the alien forces retreated, a cheer erupted from the human ranks, mixed with cries of mourning for those lost. In the aftermath, as the smoke cleared and the extent of the damage was assessed, John walked among his people, offering words of comfort and gratitude. The victory was theirs, but it had come at a steep cost. "We have won our place here on Kalis," John addressed the community later that day. "This planet is our home now, bought with the courage and blood of our friends and family. We honor them by continuing to build, to grow, and to live. The Zorvax have learned that we are not to be trifled with, that our spirit is indomitable." As the community began the process of rebuilding, there was a palpable sense of unity and determination. Kalis, once just a distant hope, had truly become home, their resilience forging a new chapter in the annals of humanity's saga among the stars.